Heyo, and welcome back to Galaxy Footy, and welcome to the Galaxy Team of the Year 2024 edition. Now, I do this every single year, and it's to kind of counteract the Dali M player system, because sometimes I feel it can be a little unfair, but I also want to kind of showcase some of the players who were not only some of the best players in the actual, year, but also some of the shining lights from the bottom tier teams, just to kind of give a little bit of a light on them. To start off, the criteria for this team, the player must either be featured as the controlled team in a fixture or origin showdown in the year of 2024, or is the MVP for a round in our round reviews. Now, if you don't know what a round review is, make sure you subscribe, because those have actually been appearing on the community tab and also my Instagram as well, which is also in the links in the description. And if you want early access to those next year, make sure you join our Discord at Galaxy Studios and make sure you get the footy roll, because that's where I announce everything early. In addition, the player cannot be in the Dali M Team of the Year, because I actually want both of these teams to feel a little bit more unique. Therefore, there's not going to be duplicates of Jerome Hughes, James Tedesco, and Herbie Farnworth, which is actually kind of a shame. I wanted Herbie Farnworth on my team. But with that out of the way, let's get into the actual team itself. Starting first with the fullback of the year, Dylan Edwards from the Penrith Panthers. He was featured in Origin Showdown 2 and 3. Now, I believe, if I recall correctly, Dylan Edwards has actually scored a try in Origin 3 from the actual, from the channel. I know he actually scored in Origin 2, but the Origin Showdown 3, he did actually score a try, and it was actually a pretty impressive try too. And not only that, but his year outside of Origin has also been impressive as well. Now, I know Dylan Edwards has also been dealing with injury this year, but when he has come back, and every time he has been on the field, he has always put an impact onto the team, and you always know he's there, and he's always Mr. Reliable as well. So that is why I am picking Dylan Edwards as my fullback. Coming into the wingers of the year, William Warbrick from the Melbourne Storm, and also from the Melbourne Storm, Xavier Coates. Both of these players were featured in Fixture Showdown Round 24 against the Panthers, and Will Warbrick in particular was our Round 27 MVP as well. So I've decided to go with both the Storm wingers on this, because I feel like their wings have just been so deadly this year, the Melbourne Storm, and that's been a big part due to Will Warbrick and Xavier Coates. I'd also like to shout out Will Warbrick. Now, I didn't actually have this written under Will Warbrick until yesterday, after the Dali M ceremony. When Jerome Hughes actually won it, Will Warbrick actually led a haka to celebrate Jerome Hughes and honor him, which I thought honestly stood out to me, and that actually kind of solidified his spot on the list. So as a community member of the NRL community, Will Warbrick definitely locks his spot from a community impactor as well. And Xavier Coates, how can you not give it to Xavier Coates after that insane try against the Warriors? Just flew like Superman, like Warbrick did the year before in the Roosters final game. Just insane. And definitely he has picked up in form since he has left the Broncos into the Storm. So that's why I've gone with both Will Warbrick and Xavier Coates from the Melbourne Storm. Now, don't worry, I am not going with the same team for centers. So my centers of the year, my first one is Valentine Holmes for the North Queensland Cowboys. He was featured in Fixture Showdown Round 22 against the Tigers, and he was also the Round 24 MVP. Valentine Holmes is the top point scorer of the year for the North Queensland Cowboys, and unfortunately his season ended when he broke his leg at the end of the final series. Now, the Cowboys did end up losing that game and their season was over anyway, but the impact that Valentine Holmes has given to his team definitely really stood out to me, and his impact in Origin 1 as well was definitely impactful as well, which actually I don't have written here. He was featured in Origin Showdown 1 and 3 as well. So that's why Valentine Holmes makes the team of the year for the Galaxy Footy team. And our other center of the year, a shining light player, honestly. I know a lot of people might be arguing about this one, and that's absolutely fine. It is Katoni Staggs from the Brisbane Broncos. The Brisbane Broncos were actually our most played team in Fixture Showdown, featuring in Round 3 against the Panthers. Actually, Rounds 3 and 18 against the Panthers, and round 6 and 26 against the Dolphins. And also, Kotoni Staggs, after his impressive performance against the North Queensland Cowboys up in Townsville, he was also the round 23 MVP. I'm going to be honest with you with Kotoni Staggs. I know the Broncos didn't do so well this year. Kotoni Staggs is actually the only Bronco that's made the team. But every single time the Broncos have played, Kotoni Staggs has actually put in the effort to actually perform at his best, and he has racked up a lot of points for the Brisbane Broncos. Sure, it didn't end up being a lot in the end, like it didn't mean anything in the end, but he was definitely a shining light from the year that the Brisbane Broncos had. So that is why Kotoni Staggs makes my center of the year, with Valentine Holmes, of course. At 5/8 of the year, a controversial choice here, and I completely understand that. Featured in Origin Showdown 2 and 3, and was the Indigenous Round MVP from the Penrith Panthers, Jerome Leilua. Now, I could spend a long time telling you why I've actually put Jerome Leilua in here, but I actually feel like it would take like 30 minutes onto the video, and honestly, I don't want this video to be as long as I can. And now, I know a lot of you say that you don't like Jerome Leilua because he plays the villain role of the Queensland teams, but this guy has honestly put the New South Wales Blues on his back, along with Mitchell Moses, mind you. But Jerome Leilua has stepped up for the Penrith Panthers in Nathan Cleary's absence, and he has delivered a result. Like, honestly, if you be honest with yourselves right now, if Jerome Leilua wasn't in the Penrith Panthers, would the Penrith Panthers be actually in the grand final tomorrow? I don't actually think so. I feel like since Nathan Cleary was injured, Jerome Leilua has stepped up. He has actually taken the halfback role, which I think that was kind of debatable to put him here because he's actually changed roles throughout the season, but I feel like he actually deserves a spot on the team because of his performance this year. And I'll have to be honest, the villain role for him has kind of dropped off a little bit, and he's kind of become a nice guy, honestly. And there's a lot worse people that are in the actual Origin arena now. So Jerome Leilua is our 5/8 of the year. Coming in at halfback of the year, probably another controversial choice, but I just like to remind you, he was only out for one game this year, and that is Sam Walker from the Sydney Roosters, who was our round 8 Anzac round MVP. That game he had against the Dragons in that game was absolutely outstanding, and he continued to perform until his untimely injury in, I think it was around 26, when he got injured, and I think he did his ACL, which was a bit unfortunate. Now, the Roosters were able to perform without Sam Walker and Brandon Smith as well, but Sam Walker was definitely one of the reasons why the Roosters saw the success that they did. Obviously, you can argue James Tedesco did that as well, but Sam Walker was definitely a big reason as to why they got to where they were in the finals. So, Sydney Roosters, Sam Walker comes in at number 7. Our halfback of the year. Next up, we have our props of the year. Now, one of these is actually, both of these are kind of controversial choices. There might be a question asked as to why I'm not picking a certain player, and I will explain that in a moment. So, for my number 8, I'm actually going to go with Nelson Osifa Solomona from the Melbourne Storm, who was featured in Fixture Showdown round 24. And I'm also going to pick Reagan Campbell-Gillard from the Fixture Showdown round 13 against the Sharks, the one where I said Return of the King with Gutherson. Now, Reagan Campbell-Gillard, I know it was his final year as a Parramatta Eel, but I don't think he knew that at the time. And Nelson, he has had a massive impact. It is an absolute shame he is not playing in the grand final this Sunday, because I definitely would have wanted to see him on the big stage. But also at the same time, these two props have actually delivered for their team. Reagan Campbell-Gillard is another shining light from the Parramatta Eels' abysmal season, and every single time the Parramatta Eels have actually done well, he has been one of the driving forces behind it. So that is why I'm picking Reagan Campbell-Gillard for my number 10 and Nelson Solomona for my number 8. Now, you might be asking as to why I am not picking James Fisher-Harris. I actually do feel he would be a really good player for this team, but unfortunately, he was not featured in a fixture or Origin Showdown, and he never got MVP for a round. So I unfortunately cannot feature him in the team. So it's a bit of a stretch, but he will feature on the bench when it comes time to actually do the challenge video later in October. Our hooker of the year coming in at number 9 is Apisai Coruscant, probably another shining light and definitely a shining light from the West Tigers. Now, the West Tigers didn't do really well this year. They received their 3rd wooden spoon in a row, but they did improve their record this year with 2 more extra wins from the previous 2 years. Apisai Coruscant is one of the reasons why this happens, and he was actually our round 3 MVP. And he was featured in Fixture Showdowns rounds 2 and 17 against the Raiders and the Roosters. Liam Martin comes in the 2nd row, and Ola Kawatu also comes in. Both featured in Origin Showdowns 2 and 3. Actually, Ola Kawatu was not featured in Origin Showdown 3, my mistake, but he was featured in Fixture Showdown round 25 against the Tigers. Now, the reason I've picked both of these guys as my 2nd row, Liam Martin has honestly had a really good year. I was kind of surprised he didn't get the 2nd row in the Dally M team, so that is why I'm honoring him in this team. He has also done a lot of impact for the New South Wales Blues this year. A lot of the reason that they won the games that they did was because of Liam Martin. Obviously, you can make an argument for Angus Crichton, but Angus Crichton was on the Dally M team of the year, so unfortunately, I cannot pick him for this team. So I'm going to go with the 2nd best, and that is Liam Martin. As for Ola Kawatu, he has made some really impactful plays for the Manly Warriors Sea Eagles, and I definitely feel like he is going to go far in the future when it comes to the Sea Eagles as well. And I definitely feel like he's going to be one of the better players actually going to. I don't know if he's actually leaving. I think yeah, he's not leaving. So it's actually going to be really interesting to see how he goes, but I definitely feel like he was kind of unfairly dropped in Origin 3. So, I mean, they ended up winning, so maybe it was a smart move on their part. But yeah, I'm rambling. I apologize. But Ola Kawatu and Liam Martin get my 2nd rows of the year in the Galaxy Team of the Year. And rounding out the team for Lock of the Year and also the captain of the team is my captain of the year is Reuben Cotter from the North Queensland Cowboys, who was featured in round 22's Fixture Showdown and Origin Showdown 1 and 3. Now, Reuben Cotter he is actually the secondary captain to Tom Dearden, and Tom Dearden was featured in the Dally M Team of the Year. But I also want to believe that Reuben Cotter actually did play a part in the resurgent that was the North Queensland Cowboys, and every single time he was on the field for both North Queensland and the Queensland Maroons, he always made an impact. He was always running, getting up those run meters, and he was always leading by example. So that's why I've decided to pick Reuben Cotter as my 13th for the captain of the year. And that's about does it for the starting 13. However, we aren't done yet because I've got a few other rewards that I actually want to hand out. So starting first with the Rookie of the Year, or in my opinion, who is the Rookie of the Year. So on the Dally M, I believe it was Jack Bostock, which good on him for getting it. But I actually think the Rookie of the Year is from the West Tigers, and that is Lockie Galvin. Now, the fact that the Tigers have lacked a good half option until this year has kind of Lockie Galvin has come as a blessing, if I'm being honest. I know the West Tigers didn't do so well this year and got another wooden spoon, but Lockie Galvin is over here actually growing as a player, and I definitely feel like under Benji he is going to go far. He was featured in our Fixture Showdowns rounds 2 against the Raiders and round 17 against the Roosters. Our Impact Player of the Year, this is someone who's played in the starting side but also has sometimes come off the bench, and that is Max Platt from the Dolphins. He was featured in Fixture Showdowns round 16, 26 and 27 against the Knights, and he played multiple different positions this year. He played hooker, he played lock, and I believe he also played 2nd row, if I recall correctly. I believe he was suspended at one point. I actually think he would have been in running for Rookie of the Year, and I think the Dolphins have actually found a really nice rookie to have under them. And the fact that Gilbert was lost for the rest of this year, and so was Tom Flegler, I think Max Plath has come in and replaced them really well. I actually feel like if Dolphins didn't lose the 2 players that they did, they actually would be playing finals this year. So that's why I've decided to pick Max Plath as Impact Player of the Year. The Shining Light of the Year is another forward, and that is from the Brisbane Broncos, and that is Marty Taupau. Now, I feel like Marty Taupau didn't have an impactful year in 2023. He was downgraded to reserve grade by the end of 2023, and he didn't even play in the 2023 grand final. But this year, when he has played for the Brisbane Broncos, he has actually been one of their top performers outside of Payne Haas, but also he has come off the bench multiple times and has always provided leadership. In his 100th game, he actually scored a try, and it was actually pretty outstanding that he was able to actually do that try. So the Shining Light Player of the Year is basically the player that I feel like has come off the bench, but in a lower ranked team, and has actually done really well when he's come on the field. And that's why I have put Marty Taupau at Shining Light of the Year. And now finally we get to the final award of today's video, and that is the Dally M equivalent, the Galaxsi footy equivalent of the Dally M Player of the Year. And that's, I just call it the MVP of 2024. For this thing. I don't actually have an official name for it, but I'm just going to say Player of the Year. So the Player of the Year in 2024 obviously can't be a Dally M player because that's obvious, but featured in our fixture showdowns multiple times as the enemy, featured in Origins 2 and 3, was a single MVP of this year, and often was referred to as the villain of NRL. A controversial choice, I know, but my Player of the Year in 2024 from the Penrith Panthers is Jerome Leilua. I actually think he has done the growth that this guy has done throughout the year. I don't know if the fact that he's going to the West Tigers next year has anything to do with it, but the growth that he has gone through this year, the character arc he has gone through, just these multiple things. Jerome Leilua basically put the New South Wales Blues on his back with Mitchell Moses. Obviously, I'm not nominating Mitchell Moses, but he was one of the reasons why Penrith are in the grand final. He is also one of the reasons why New South Wales won the series. He's also multiple reasons as to why Penrith won the games that they did. And not only that, has also stepped up into a position he is unfamiliar with at number 7, who is supposedly supposed to be the player of all time, Nathan Cleary, and he has taken that role well. I feel like Jerome Leilua deserves Player of the Year for the Galaxsi Footy channel because of this impact, and that is why I have selected him. Honestly, there's so much that I want to say about Jerome Leilua. I feel like this year, if you still consider Jerome Leilua a villain from this year, I feel like you kind of need to have another look, because I feel like he's actually improved in terms of attitude, but he's kind of taken on a bit more of a chillax kind of role. And yeah, I've honestly gained a lot of respect for Jerome Leilua in 2024, and I can't wait to see what he brings to the West Tigers as well. And maybe it is because he's going to the West Tigers next year, so he's trying to make this year count. So my Player of the Year is Jerome Leilua. That's going to do it for my Team of the Year. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and even tell me what you think the Team of the Year should look like. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more Galaxsi Footy content. There is one more thing that we need to do tomorrow, and that is the grand final live stream. Make sure you join us so you can either A, criticize the fact that I chose Jerome Leilua as my MVP for 2024, and come and check out some of the my opinions about each of the teams in the NRL, and also find out who I will be tipping for the NRL Grand Final of 2024. So that's going to do it for the episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.